Hello and welcome to today's office hours presentation. This is your host, Paul Hoyt. Our office hours presentation is a relaxed, informal mentoring session that we do every Monday at noon Pacific time. All these recording slides and exercises are archived in our members area, and then all the recordings are available on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/Paul Hoyt. The reasons we do this is because we know that being a successful business owner can be a fantastic experience, but we also know that it's tough. You need education, training, tools, and team to be successful, and we want you to get to know us. Because when you get to know us, you'll know that first and most importantly, we really do care about you. We want you to succeed in every area of your business, whatever in life, whatever that means to you. We want you to find the greatness, the happiness, the divinity within yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every single day as we try to do. Our passion is to increase the survival rate, accelerate the growth rate, and reduce the struggle rate of businesses in America. And our vision is to help millions of CEOs and entrepreneurs accelerate their business growth and enjoy greater harmony and balance in their lives. Please pass the word along. If you find these office hours presentations valuable to you and you know anybody else that's in business for themselves, you might encourage them to check these out, to sign up so they can join us live, or to at least check out the recordings, because there's a tremendous amount of valuable information there, I know. In our office hours presentation, we do an in-depth discussion of a business success principle. I offer some closing remarks, special offers, and an invitation for next week's session. Then we go into open Q&A and coaching. So during the presentation today, if you have any questions or topics of discussion or ideas and comments that you'd like to share with our audience, then please type them into the chat log, raise your hand in some way, and we'll call on you. And we'll get into our interactive Q&A and discussion at the end of the call. We also invite you to join us online in social media in the Awakened CEO communities on both LinkedIn and Facebook, where 4 times a week I publish a business success principle of the day. And every single day we do an energy of the day posting on Facebook. This Wednesday we're going to have an Awakened Conversation, and this is an interactive webinar with our special guest Ken Parks. It's going to be Wednesday, November 18th at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Watch your emails for sign-up information. Once you sign up for one of our Awakened Conversations, then you've automatically signed up for all of the Awakened Conversations. But signing up for office hours presentations doesn't necessarily get you the link information that you need for the Awakened Conversation. You do need to sign up for that separately. I also want to invite you to our Awakened CEO Strategic Planning virtual event, which we do once a quarter, and it's going to be on Saturday, December the 5th. That's a couple of weeks away. We want to give you some advance notice. You can sign up for that. And again, this is an event that you need to sign up for separately at paulhoyt.com/strategize with Paul. At the end of this presentation, these slides will be available in the Tribe portal, and you can access that link again if you fail to write it down now, or if you're in a position where you can't write it down. Today's topic is on getting massive support. A couple of office hours ago, we talked about best practices in staffing, and we talked about the investment required whenever you expand your staff and best practices in expanding your staff. But today we're going to take it a little bit further. Today we're going to talk about a lot of different aspects of figuring out who to add to your team and how to go about doing that. As we always try to do, we relate the subject matter of the day to one of the more key performance areas of success that I defined in my 2004 book, The Foundation Factor. And today it's all about leadership. You, as the leader of your company, as the CEO of your company, need to take 100% responsibility for building your team and then aligning that team with the vision and the goals of the organization so that you can build the business and accelerate your growth. And that's all about leadership. We also relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of the levels of performance that we define in our Awakened CEO system, which is a balanced and comprehensive approach to business growth on these different levels. And this particular subject is all about mindset and methods, about your mindset, your attitude, and your perspective when it comes to expanding your team, and about the methods, the processes, and the procedures that you use in determining which members of your team to add and how do you go about that. Our agenda for today includes the subject of why build a team. Then we'll talk about the size of your team. We'll talk about ways to think about your team in a lot of different areas. And we'll talk about, give some best ideas and practices for getting started, and then we'll sum it all up with the bottom line. So let's jump in and talk about why build a team. There are 4 really great reasons for expanding your team. The first is bandwidth, which means that you've got so much to do that you can't possibly do it all yourself, that you're working 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, and there's still too much to do. You just need to delegate that and outsource it in some way. And as your business grows, you absolutely need to do that. You need to increase your team in order to expand the bandwidth or the availability of your team, the capability of your team to actually do the work. Another really great reason to expand your team and build a team is for expertise, because no matter how gifted you are, no matter how much you try to learn to be good at everything and learn everything, you'll never be as good as everybody is at everything that needs to be done. You can be good at marketing, but that doesn't mean you're the best marketing person. You can be good at financial management, but that doesn't mean that you can be the best financial manager. But the law of excellence simply states that it's possible for each and every one of us to be excellent at multiple things, but it's not possible for us to be excellent at everything. So sometime in your business, you will find the need for additional expertise, and that's a very, very good reason to build your team. Another good reason to build your team is creativity. As I like to say, God doesn't give all the great ideas to just one person. He scatters them around. So I'm going to come up with ideas that you're not going to come up with. You're going to come up with ideas that I'm not going to come up with. Stephanie is going to come up with ideas. Nanette's going to come up with ideas. Other people on your team are going to come up with ideas that you would never, ever come up with yourself. That's one of the values of diversity, of having people from different cultures with different experiences at different ages in life and stages of life on your team, so that you can get that wide range of creativity harnessed for the benefit of your particular business. And that's a great reason to build your team, so that you can create better plans, better ideas, and just do a better job in general than you could possibly do for yourself. And the fourth one is support, because as we said earlier, building a team, building a business can be tough. You need support in a lot of different ways. So people get coaches for accountability and for emotional support. And those are 2 different types of support. Accountability means that people are reminding you of the great choices that you have made and help you focus your time and attention on that, because you know that the next time you talk to your coach, they're going to ask you, how did you do on last week's commitments? And what I find personally, and what I find with so many other people, is just knowing that you're going to be held accountable to that somebody's going to check in with you and ask you how you are doing, really helps you focus your time and attention so that you can give that person a good report. We all want to be rewarded for the things that we do, and nobody likes the embarrassment of saying, I just didn't do that. I just didn't focus that, and then have to explore why that is. So support can be a really good reason to expand your team. And it's not just with accountability. Sometimes it's with emotional support as well, because building a business can be really tough. Sometimes we get down. Sometimes things scare us. We have to do some scary things like hire somebody or let somebody go or have a tough conversation with somebody about finances. There's lots and lots of ways in which business can be a scary experience and one that taxes us emotionally. So I strongly encourage you to build a team that not only gives you that accountability support, but also the emotional support as well. So those are the 4 great reasons to expand your team. Be thinking about, how you might expand your team today. And if you need help with bandwidth in just getting the job done, expertise with people who will help you do things that you yourself have never done before or you're not an expert at, creativity in saying, I could use some more good ideas here, and support in terms of accountability and emotional support. Let's think a little bit about the size of the team that you want to build. Many, many businesses out there are soloists. There's what I call solopreneurs. But I would encourage you, even if you're the only person who is on your team full-time or even part-time, to do not think of yourself as a soloist. Think of yourself as You know, I'm the primary person in my business, but I have support. I've got a coach. I've got some advisors. I've got, you know, accountants that help me with finances. I've got attorneys who help me with the legal aspects. I've got business consultants and strategists that help me create plans. I've got, you know, sales trainers that help me be a better salesperson, etc. Even if you're the only full-time person in your business, it is really, really very harming to you, not very beneficial at all, for you to think of yourself as a soloist in the business. Think of yourself as a person who has lots of support. And in fact, that's the name of the presentation today, right? Get massive support. Even if you're the only one full-time in your business, get massive support. The next size up is a micro business. And 85 to 90% of businesses in America, by the way, are micro businesses with 5 or fewer full-time people working in the business. And the team selection that you have with that size of business is incredibly important, because every single person at a small business like that holds a very critical role. If one of them is missing either physically or emotionally, or you know they're checked out for some reason because they're disengaged, the entire business can suffer. To make an investment in a new team member at a very small business is a very risky thing. So you have to be very, very smart and strategic about who you hire, how you manage them. You know, as I like to say, you hire slow and fire fast. If you've made a mistake and it's not just working out, you have to be courageous enough to have that conversation and cut the chain if you really did, cut the ties if you really need to do it then. Next level up is a small business. And by the way, the United States government defines a small business differently for different industries. For most industries, it's $20 million in revenue and below, which can translate up to a business with 200 or 300 people at a business if you've got size of $20 million. I've had the privilege of consulting with businesses who are at that $20, $25 million threshold, and they had 150 or 200 people working at the business. And if you're one of those people who is a solopreneur, or if you only got 5 or 7 people at your business, you know, it's tough to think about a 200-person business as being a small business, but that's the way the U.S. government defines it. A 200-person business might have 4 layers of management, might have an executive team and senior managers reporting to them, and then first line managers reporting to them, and then you know the members of the technical staff reporting to them. It's pretty easy to have 4 or more levels of management when you're a small business. And a small business, really, to me, at the level of 200 or 300 people, doesn't feel like a small business at all. It feels like a very large business, which of course can have thousands of people. Large businesses and businesses with 200 or 300 people at them typically will have very well-defined hiring processes. They typically have every position at their business covered by a competent professional who has expertise in that particular area. And they don't need a lot of guidance when it comes to filling out your team, you would think. But in those businesses that I've consulted with who have $20 to $30 million in business, even at those businesses, we found weaknesses at the very top of the business and in some cases throughout the business, where people were not hired correctly, or the business had grown up around them and they were no longer able to be competent in their position, and that they needed to be given an opportunity to be excellent elsewhere, either in a different position within the company or in a different position outside of the company. So even at those very large businesses with hundreds or thousands of people, you see challenges in the team. It's your responsibility as CEO of your business, as a leader of your business, to make sure that you're always addressing your team, and don't assume for a second that everybody on your team is performing optimally in their position, because the odds are pretty darn good. If you've got 4 or 5 or 10 people, by the time you get to have 20 or 30 or 40 people or 50 people, that there are people on your team that are disengaged, that they're really not doing all the work that they could. They may actively be sabotaging the productivity of your business through putting forth disparaging comments and through negative attitudes and through far less than high-performing team kinds of behavior. So be thinking about that regardless of the size of your team. Now we want to talk about a lot of different ways to think about your team. And this is kind of a brainstorming opportunity for you to be thinking about the right person to hire next for your team. We're going to talk about functional areas, the mindset of the people that you hire, the participation level that they have with your team, the level in the organization, and the experience that you're hiring, and in which life areas you can get support. The first one I want to talk about is the functional areas. In the functional areas, of course, most of the work that I do surrounds the 7 key performance areas of business. You may hire somebody who can be on your leadership team. You may hire somebody for your sales team. You may hire somebody for your service and delivery team, your marketing team, your product development team, your operations and administration team, and your financial management team. Those are the 7 key performance areas of business that I define. And as it turns out, not every business has all 7 of these areas. And in some businesses, there may be an 8th area or a 9th area. Let me give you an example. A manufacturing business. A manufacturing business, in addition to having these 7 businesses, may have an 7 functional areas rather of business, may have an 8th key performance area, which is manufacturing. They separate out front office operations from manufacturing operations. They separate out engineering or product development from engineering management and from manufacturing engineers who help the people in the manufacturing department figure out how they're going to build the stuff that the engineers design. So be thinking about your business and the different functional areas of your business and do a quick assessment as to which ones of those areas are nearly not performing well, because if they're not performing well, you may need to add teammates to that area of business or replace teammates who are already working in those areas with people who have greater expertise, who have greater experience, and in some way are able to perform at a higher level than the people who are already in those organizations. And that's just one of the ways to think about adding people to your team. Be thinking about the way that when you think about the way that you add people, be thinking about whether you want people just to work with you incidentally, for a few hours every once in a while, temporarily, say on a committed basis for a few weeks. We're seeing a lot of temporary help being hired this time of year for the holiday season. So you may want to hire some temporary workers if you have a seasonal business for your heavy season, which could be now, or it could be, later on, it could be early summer, etc. You may hire people on a semi-permanent basis where you know that the job is going to last for some period of time. A good example of that is, say, if you want to swap out the computer system at your company and you know that that's going to last for 6 months or 9 months, but it is just a temporary assignment. Or you have a consulting business and you just got a large project. Or you have a construction business and you just landed a large construction opportunity. You may hire people on a semi-permanent basis so that you're hiring them for a specific project to help you out for a specific period of time, but everybody knows that when that project ends, their job could end as well, and they could be moving on. Or you may hire people on a permanent basis. And that when you hire people on a permanent basis, that is, the intention is that they will stay with you for as long as it's satisfying to both of you. It's really hard to hire people on a permanent basis these days, especially if they're a young person, because people grow so rapidly and their interests change so quickly, and Lord knows that with family situations, they might be moving across country. So we don't really hire people on a permanent basis the way we used to in 1940 or 50 when the rule was that you started to work for a company and you worked for that company for 40 or 50 years and then you retired and got your pension and got your pocket watch. Today we don't do that anymore. Today we have permanent positions, but it's not necessarily the same person who fills that permanent position over time. Be sure to pay attention to the mindset of people when you hire people. You may need people who are cheerleaders, people who bring to you that rah-rah enthusiastic personality. You may need people who are umpires, people who will speak directly and who won't take any nonsense, and they will call a foul ball a foul ball. They'll call a strike a strike. They'll call a spade, a diamond, a heart, etc. They will be very direct and very objective. You may find that you need that. If you have a company that's full of rah-rah cheerleaders and you find that you're not always seeing the truth or the reality because everybody is looking at the business through rose-colored glasses, you may specifically decide that that next person that you hire have the unusual trait of being able to talk to you frankly and objectively and tell you good news and bad news and deliver the facts, because that's really important to have at least one or two people at your company that can be the umpire. You may have somebody that you want to have as a teammate, somebody that will roll up their sleeves and just work with you to get the job done. They'll pick up the shovel, they'll pick up the axe, they'll dig the ditch, they'll chop the trees, they'll just make sure that your job gets done every day. You may decide that you need an advisor, somebody that will mentor you, that will give you consulting kinds of advice and will share with you the value of their years and years worth of experience to help you make great decisions, to help you face challenges and to overcome obstacles and solve problems. And you may decide that you need a coach, somebody that will help you figure out what your options are, will help you figure out what your alternatives are and help you make great decisions, and then help you be accountable to yourself, not to them, but be accountable to yourself for meeting the commitments that you've made to yourself and the rest of the team. And somebody that can perhaps give you emotional support as well whenever you need somebody to vent to, somebody to share with, a shoulder to cry on for a few minutes, somebody to really, help you in the way that you need support when it comes to addressing the challenges in your business. And the last one that you may get is the mentor. The mentor to me is the combination coach, advisor, umpire, in some cases teammate, but usually not, sometimes cheerleader as well. But mentors typically don't roll up their sleeves and actually do the work with you, but they do typically stay with you for a long time. And the mentor really is focused on your long-term success. So when you think about getting a mentor, think about that being a longer-term relationship than even with an advisor or a coach. Coaches, will typically have 90-day programs or 6-month programs or annual programs. My encouragement for you is to, when you get a mentor, is to think about that in terms of multiple years of working with you and advising you and really helping you become the person that you need to become and the person that you can be in order for you to get the success that you really want. The next way to think about your team is in the area of participation. In other words, how are they going to help you? Are they going to help you with education? In other words, teach you how to do things? Or are they going to help you with training, which is showing you how to do things and helping you develop your own skills? And by the way, people generally like training more than they do education. We go to college, we take classes online to get education. We work with people one-on-one, oftentimes to get training that actually show us how to do things and then help us develop our own skills to do that. You might hire somebody to help do it with you, which means roll up your sleeves and do it with you. And here at our business, of course, we do a lot of do-it-with-you services, working with people to write business plans, working with people to develop growth strategies, etc. Some people will show you how to do it and teach you how to do it. Other people will roll up their sleeves and actually do the work with you. And the last category is to do it for you. Sometimes as the CEO of a company, you just need to hire somebody to get the job done. I don't want to know how you're doing it. I don't want you to teach me how to do it. I just want you to do it and come back to me and tell me when it's done so I can check to see whether or not it's done the way that I want it to do. So think about when you hire somebody for your team, whether you want somebody to show you how to do it, teach you how to do it, educate you in how to doing it, or to do it with you or to do it for you. Also think about the level in the organization. You may want to hire somebody for your board of directors, and be cautious when you do, because if you have a C corporation or an S corporation, typically when you hire a member of your board of directors, you are hiring your bosses. They have the votes and can override you in some of the critical and most material decisions of the company. You may instead want to hire somebody from your board of advisors, which does not have a legal and fiduciary responsibility for the oversight and control of the business. Your board of advisors simply give you advice. Many times they're also professional service providers. They're accountants and attorneys and business consultants and branding strategists who do a fee-for-service arrangement with you in addition to being on your board of advisors. But generally speaking, they certainly don't have the ability to override your decisions like your board of directors does, and they don't really take on a lot of operational responsibility at your business. You may want somebody to take on that operational responsibility, so you may want to hire somebody in at the C level, hire somebody to be a replacement CEO or a COO or a CFO or some other C-level position within your company. Or if you don't want them to have executive privileges and responsibilities, you may hire them in as a vice president at your company, which typically vice presidents do not participate in senior executive staff meetings, but they have an awesome amount of responsibility for the operations of a company. Typically, vice presidents are more operations. C-level executives are both operationally focused and strategically focused with the company. And then you may find yourself, as your company grows, to have mid-level managers and certainly a lot of members of your technical team or just individual team members. So when you think about hiring somebody for your team, that next critical position or two, be thinking about at which level of the organization you want them to participate. Do you want them to be at your board of directors? Do you want them to participate in the strategic growth of the business and the senior decisions of the company on the executive team at the C level? Or do you want them to take a tremendous amount of operational responsibility as a vice president or a manager, or just get the job done on a daily basis like a member of the technical team? You may also want to think about the experience, whether or not a rookie or an intern will do. If you're hiring somebody to be in your mailroom or hiring somebody, to just assist you in some way that does not require a lot of experience or any experience, a rookie might do, or an intern, a college intern might work. There are a lot of people in colleges who would love to have a part-time position either over the summer or during the school year so that they can put on their resume that they worked for you, and they can have a reference when it comes time to have that full-time job after graduation. So sometimes the right thing to do is to hire somebody with very little experience and pay them $12 to $15 an hour, maybe less, for them to just do the things, the mundane things, and take it off your plate. Or you might want somebody with some experience, and I think there is a threshold with somebody when they hit 7 years of experience. For thousands of years, we had master-apprentice relationships when it came to learning the trades and becoming a professional at a trade. And the general rule of thumb was that you were an indentured service or a servant or an apprentice to a master for 7 years. And after 7 years, you could then become a journeyman and apply to become a master at your trade shortly thereafter. And that's been my experience too. If somebody has 7 years experience, they typically have a tremendous amount of experience. A doctor who has been to medical school and has been an intern and then been in private practice for a few years can be an exceptionally good doctor. An attorney with 7 years in experience, a CPA with 7 years experience, a computer programmer with 7 years experience can have a tremendous amount of experience. I like to say when I was in the computing industry that somebody with 7 years experience was likely as good as anybody with 20 or 30 years experience, except for the areas of project management and relationship management. Typically, over time, we get a little more skilled in our emotional intelligence, so we're better able to develop great relationships and work with people and manage projects and manage our teams. But when it comes to doing the technical work, 7 years experience, that's a real threshold for me. Then after that, over 20 years experience, I think, is a threshold that you might want to have on your team as well. Sometimes it's a really good idea, especially if you have a lot of young people on your team, to get somebody that's been around the block quite a few times, somebody that has a little gray in their beard or no hair on the top of their head, or somebody that's is a grandmother, for example, to come in and have on your team so you can have that grounded sense of experience and that emotional maturity on your team, especially if you have a lot of young people on your team. And the last thing I want to talk about is the different life areas that you may want to hire somebody. Certainly all of our conversation today has been about business, but you may want to hire people for other areas of your life as well. You may want to hire people to help you out with the physical aspects of life. You may want to hire, a dietitian, a nutritionist, a personal trainer, somebody to help you get your act together physically. You may want to hire somebody who can help you out mentally, somebody who can teach you, somebody who can help you improve your memory skills, for example, or your focus skills. You may want to hire somebody who can support you emotionally, a psychologist, a counselor, a therapist, or a coach. And you may want to hire somebody who can support you spiritually, somebody that you can have those most intimate and precious and important conversations with about the meaning of life, about the nature of divinity, about how you become the person that you really want to be and have the relationship with spirit or source or God or whatever language that you put with that. So I urge you to think about your team, your support team, in other areas of life in addition to just business. Think about physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual support as well. Those are the ways that we want you to think about your team. The functional areas, the mindset areas, that whether they're a cheerleader or an umpire, an advisor, a mentor, the participation, whether they are doing it with you or for you or teaching or training you how to do it, what level in the organization, what experience you really need to augment your team right now today, and which life areas you need support. So how do you get started? We talked about this just a little bit a couple of weeks ago. Generally speaking, people get started in delegating low-value tasks. So even if you have a team of 15 or 20 people at your company right now, what we want to do generally is delegate low-value tasks, hire people in at the lower levels of our organization, and promote people within the organization. Because you've invested a lot of experience, a lot of time and training in them. They know the business, they know the people. If we can teach them those higher level skills, teach them management skills, teach them leadership skills, teach them emotional intelligence skills, then we can better leverage the years of experience that they may have with our company. Sometimes that's not practical. Sometimes you look around and say, I'm not in a position to promote people within my organization. I need to go outside to get the expertise, to get the emotional maturity, to get the experience that I need within my organization. But generally, to get started, we talk about delegating those low-value tasks so that we ourselves can spend more time on the high-value tasks, or that so we can promote people within our organization and encourage them to develop their competence, develop their excellence at higher value tasks. I also encourage you to think about what critical expertise you need for your next phase of growth. Of course, I'm a strategist and a planner, so I always want people to be focusing on a 90-day growth plan. I always want you to be focused on the next phase of growth for your particular business, and then go out and ask yourself, how do I need to augment my team to meet the specific goals and objectives that I have in front of me for the next 90 days, for the next 6 months? Here are my top 3 to 5 goals. Here are the things I absolutely am committed to accomplishing. Now, what kind of expertise do I need, either temporarily or permanently, on my team in order to accomplish those goals and move forward? A word of caution that we covered a lot in Office Hours 95, and that's avoid increasing your overhead too quickly. What we really want to do is add people to the team to help us deliver products and services to existing customers, as opposed to adding people to our team to help us find more customers. The first one doesn't require much of an investment at all. The second one, where we're hiring people to find more business because we don't have enough business today especially, can be extremely risky to your business, and you have to be very, very cautious when it comes to increasing your overhead too quickly if you're hiring to expand. Just a couple of words about your team and capital as well. Many of you who I've been associated with over the years, and perhaps some of you listening to this program today, are thinking about raising capital. If you're thinking about raising capital, it's very helpful for you to understand what your investors are going to be looking at when they look at your team. Your investors want to have multiple founders on a team. They want to have those founders to have significant personal investments into the company themselves, and they want them to have worked together for years. That's the ideal situation, that you would have multiple founders on the team who have worked together for years, and each and every one of those multiple founders has a significant investment in the company already before you go out to raise capital. And one of my favorite books, Nail It and Then Scale It, talks about the need to have the hacker, the huckster, and the hopeful on your team, which means that you need to have an engineer, You need to have a salesperson, and you need to have a visionary and leader personality on your team. I did an office hours presentation on Nail It and Scale It. I'm not sure what the number is, but we talked about that extensively, that investors want you to have those three positions nailed. So if you are raising capital, be thinking to yourself what you need to do to augment your team so that you are more attractive to those who might invest in your business, either purchasing a portion of your business in equity capital or loaning your business and taking a significant risk on your business if through debt capital. Because having those multiple founders with significant experience working together and with significant investments really reduces what they call key man risk. Key man risk is the risk that an investor has that one or more of the founders will go south or get hit by a truck. You know, that they know that if you've got multiple founders and one of them has an unfortunate accident, the company can still survive. If those multiple founders have significant personal investments in the business, then they're less likely to just walk away. The riskiest thing that an investor can do is invest in a business where the person, where there's only one person at the business and they don't have a significant personal investment, because, hey, they could just decide to do something different tomorrow and then there goes your business. Last thing I want to talk about is this step-by-step formula that we talked about extensively in Office Hours 95, which was best practices in expanding your staff. The 6 steps are to define the job first and nail it with a job description, then hold multiple interviews at multiple times a day with multiple candidates to really make sure that you've tested them appropriately, that you've done your reference checks and due diligence checks, that you've got a very good onboarding and training program in place to make sure that you're leveraging their talents as quickly as possible and you're getting them up to speed as quickly as possible, that you do probationary hiring, that the first 90 days are always, always, always conditional upon their performance, their attitude, and the results that you actually get from their engagement, and then you focus on ongoing management. So here's the bottom line. The bottom line is, number one, I said this before, I want to repeat it, never go it alone. Even if you're the only full-time person at your business, do not under any circumstances think of yourself as a soloist. Think of yourself as the only full-time person in your business who is supported by a lot of talented experts who have expertise that you don't have, who can give you ideas that you will never have by yourself, who can offer you the support that you need to focus the way that you need to focus and to get over it whenever you have any emotional issues that come up. Focus on getting massive support for your team. Even if you're the only person of your team, focus on getting massive support for your team and add your team members strategically and carefully, especially paying attention to the investment with the critical goals and objectives that you have to achieve in the next phase of growth, using the proven processes that we talked about at a high level here and talked about in depth in the previous office hours. And get coaching and support to help you make great decisions and to help you implement those decisions on your team. That's been our agenda for today. Why build a team? We talked about the size of the team. We talked about ways to think about your team and a lot of different ways to think about those next valuable people on your team. We talked about a few tips on getting started and the bottom line. So here's your homework. Be thinking about who you need on your team right now, who you could add to your team. What advisor, what coach, what mentor, what umpire, what cheerleader, what functional area you need the most help with, and think about who you need on your team to create a staffing plan for the next phase of growth. So whatever you want to accomplish on your team in the next 3 to 6 months, in the next 90 days, be thinking about what would that perfect person look like to be added to your team so that you could more easily accomplish those goals and objectives. Begin executing the 6-step plan that we just talked about and go after it and really start building your team and getting the massive support that you need. We're going to go into questions and answers and coaching here in just a minute. First, comments and questions on the subject matter of the day, and then any other issues that you want to talk about. I want you to tell me what your biggest takeaways are, any aha moments that you had, and insights that you gained from our presentation, and tell us all what you're going to focus on. Here at the Hoyt Management Group, we have a wide variety of support services. We offer those education and training services. with over 95 hours of educational programs, some hands-on training programs that we also offer. We do advising, mentoring, coaching, where we do it with you, help you write business plans, help you do strategic plans, help you create financial models, and in some cases we will actually do it for you as well. So when you take a look at expanding your team, if you think that you might gain considerable value from having very experienced people on your team who really care about you and who've had, gosh, 50 years worth of business experience, we strongly encourage you to give us a call. Our next office hours will be on next Monday, November 23rd. We haven't decided what we're going to talk about yet, but if you would like to make some suggestions as to topics that we might address on future office hours, go to paulsurvey.com and fill out the survey. And in between now and the time that we meet next, do your homework. Also want to quickly remind you that this Wednesday, we're having an Awakened Conversation, where this office hours presentation was focused 90% on business. The Awakened Conversations are focused 90% on the inner journey of business, or on personal growth and professional growth. So be thinking about tuning in with us, because I'm a big fan, as you know, about business growth, professional growth, and personal growth going hand in hand. And we're going to talk to you about how important it is for you to spend at least some time every single day on working to become the person that you want to be. So our next conversation is this Wednesday on November the 18th at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Watch your emails for sign-up information. And again, on Saturday, December the 5th, we're going to have our virtual strategic planning event to give you an opportunity to complete your plans for the fourth quarter of this year and begin thinking about 2016. And with that, let's go into Q&A and coaching. Stephanie, do we have any questions or comments for today?
Yes, we do. Let's get going. Number one, how do I decide who I need most?
We talked a little bit about the strategies of, first of all, determining what your goals and objectives are. It's really about what you want to accomplish. So write down your top 3 to 5 goals and objectives. And by the way, this is something that we do as part of our coaching practice and our ongoing mentoring practice. For a fee, we can help you determine what your 90-day growth plan is and what those top 3 to 5 objectives that you have that are immediately on your plate tactically right now. And then typically go through your business from top to bottom and see what your capability is to actually achieve your objectives. So that's number one. Number one is to be tactically focused on adding people to your team based upon the goals and objectives that you have right now in front of you. But when it comes to thinking about adding permanent people to your team, then that takes a little more of a strategic focus. It takes looking out 3 to 5 years, or at least 18 months or so, to figure out what permanent positions or semi-permanent positions you might add to your team right now in order to achieve your long-term objectives. So I'm very performance and results focused. So first we define what it is that we want to do, and then we figure out where we are today, and then we create a plan to get from where we are today and then we gather the resources necessary to achieve that plan. That, by the way, is the first 4 steps of the Awakened CEO growth process. Step number 1 is to create your vision. Step number 2 is to determine your status. Step number 3 is to create your plan. Step number 4 is to gather your resources, and that's where we add people to the team permanently or temporarily. And then step number 5, the most important step of all, is execute, execute, execute. Improvise, adapt, overcome, do what's needed to be done every single day so that you can meet those goals and objectives and get the job done and grow your business. Hopefully that was helpful. If there's a way that we can support you in that, I encourage you to reach out and schedule a conversation with us, and we'll see if we're the right people, the exact right people for you to add to your team, temporarily or permanently, to help you answer questions just like that and get the job done. Stephanie, next question.
Okay, this is from one of our ladies on the call. Mm-hmm. How do I find a co-founder?
How do you find a co-founder? That's a good question. The founders of the business absolutely have to be passionate about the purpose and the mission of the business. Now, if you yourself are just focused on making a whole lot of money, and there are entrepreneurs out there that are focused on just making a whole lot of money, they really don't care what they do, don't really care about how they help other people, they just want to make a lot of money. You may know people like that. If you're one of those people, you may want to go find somebody else who is equally focused on just making a whole lot of money. And have them in as a co-founder so that you can make a whole lot of money together. If that's not the case, if your passion is supporting people and bringing value to your clients in some way and really serving a need in the industry, then you want to find somebody who is equally passionate about your mission, about your purpose, about your calling in life. For example, here at the Hoyt Management Group, as we say every single office hours, we are passionate on doing everything we can to help small business owners accelerate their growth and reduce their struggles. I want people who are founders of my business to have that same sense of passion and purpose and calling. If you are, an accountant and, your passion and purpose is to make sure that people get their books done right, that they don't have any mistakes when they're filing on their taxes so that they never have to worry about fines and penalties or nasty things, and they certainly would never have to worry about going to jail for committing tax fraud. And if that's your passion, to make sure that people are exactly perfectly 100% correct in every tax filing and business dealing, then you want to make sure before you get a partner at your CPA firm that they have that equal kind of focus and passion and purpose. Let me add to that just a little bit, because you may want to also have somebody who has other complementary passions and purposes. For example, sometimes I see people who are a little bit too much focused on caring for other people and for serving other people, and they don't have the sense to actually run a business. They really have challenges in pricing their products and services, in collecting on the debts that they have, and running their business, in a tip-top manner so that they can run a profitable business. If that's the case, you may need to bring in a co-founder who who shares your passion and purpose, but also has complementary mindsets. That you may want to bring in a co-founder that's not only who really gets off on who you are and what you're doing, but can bring in that operational mindset, that implementation mentality, that financial management savvy that can bring into your business. So I think the first step is determining what mindset that you want them to have, what experience do you want them to have, write down that job description for that ideal co-founder, and then network like crazy until you find somebody who exactly meets your job description. And that networking can take place at a lot of different places. You can go to the Chamber of Commerce. You can go to professional networking organizations like BNI. You can go to service clubs like Rotary or Elk or Kiwanis. You can form your own meetup group to meet people who are in your industry. You can go to trade associations. The best place, the single best place to find a co-founder is to look at the people that you've worked with for years in your past. To think about who that person was that you worked with 2 or 3 years ago or 4 or 5 years ago, who you really respected for their mindset and for their ability to get the job done, and for the great relationship that you have and the way that you supported each other and the way that you worked together, and go after that person. Because it takes years to develop a working relationship with somebody. And if you've had a stellar working relationship with people in the past, and I trust that you have, then go find one of those people and see if they might be interested in being a co-founder at your business, so that you can have that working relationship behind you and let that form the foundation for a future relationship going forward. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Stephanie, next question.
All righty, next question. If I'm not raising capital, do the same rules apply? This one was an email.
Yeah, absolutely it does. So in the book, Nail It and Scale It, and with the slide here, we talked about the hacker, the huckster, and the hopeful, which is the engineer, the salesperson, and the visionary leader. Even if you are not raising capital, it's a really good idea to pay attention to that advice. Why? Because the venture capitalists have figured out that that's the best way that they know of to increase the probability of success in their investment. If you want to follow the advice of some of the most intelligent people on the planet, which are the venture capitalists who are responsible for managing billions of dollars in investment capital, then pay attention to their advice. Go make sure on your team that you have the hacker, the engineer, the people who can design the products and get the job done, the huckster, the people who can sell it and who are passionate about selling your products and services, and the visionary leader, somebody who can light the flame and hold the flame and keep the flame lit to really hold the company true to the passion and purpose that they have with the company. So absolutely yes, even if you are not raising capital, that same advice applies. Never think about being the only person at your business. And if you don't have those three skill sets nailed, then go out and get co-founders for your business or partners on your team that can do that. One of the biggest mistakes I see business owners making, by the way, and entrepreneurs making, is that either they think that they don't have to sell, or they think that once they get into business, it will be trivial to learn how to sell. And that's certainly not been my experience, and it's not the experience of countless other people too. If you're already in business, then by all means, learn to be a professional salesperson as quickly as possible. And if you're thinking about starting a business, then my encouragement to you is to get sales experience before you go out and start your own business, so that you can kind of learn on somebody else's dime and participate with a lot of other experienced salespeople, so you can get the experience that you need in order to be successful selling your company's products and services. Hopefully that was helpful to you. We got 12:55, Stephanie. I think we got time for one or two more questions. What do you got?
All right, next one. I can't afford anyone right now, so how do I expand my team without funds?
To expand your team without funds, there's a couple of three things that you can do. So number one is that there are organizations out there that will give you mentoring and coaching and advising for free or extremely low cost. So the Small Business Administration with their SCORE programs and their small business development centers may be able to do that. Some churches and some trade associations have kind of scholarship programs or free training programs that you might be able to participate in. Online, I've got 95 hours or more of education and training programs, so you can learn a lot on your own and get some free assistance from charitable organizations if you can't afford to get any support. A second idea that might work for you is a trade out of services. So you might find some very competent professional out there who could use a little bit of what you've got. And if so, you might be able to barter with them a little bit. I'll dig your ditch if you'll give me a chicken, kind of thing, which is what we did, 100 years ago or 200 years ago. You knocked on a farmer's or a rancher's home and said, I'd like to, I need some food and a place to stay. I'll be happy to repair your fences for you or herd your cattle. And it was more of a barter arrangement than anything else. So you might be able to work with a trade out of services and a barter arrangement there. I had a coach once that said that, I really want to help you. I'll help you out on a little bit, and you pay me what you can afford to pay me for a little while. We'll see how that arrangement works, because I'd like to support you. I'd like to develop a good working relationship with you, and for one or two sessions or for some limited amount of time, I'll help you how I can, and you pay me what you can afford to pay me, and I'll trust you to pay me what you really can, to be honest about that and not just take advantage of my kind heart. And the fourth way is to get a co-founder, somebody that can put sweat equity into the business or even bring their own capital to the business to help you grow the business. You may want to get a co-founder, a partner in your business, give up a percentage of ownership in the business in order to get that support you need if you can't afford to go out and hire somebody. So hopefully that's a lot of good ideas about ways in which you might be able to get the support on your team when you don't have any money. We certainly want you to be in the position of having the money to hire people. We want you to get in revenue as quickly as possible so that you can use the profits, the gross profit from the services and the products that you sell in order to expand your team. We want you to get the capital that you need either through debt capital or equity capital in your business. Sometimes you're not in a position to do that today, but as I always say when I'm coaching small businesses is we want you to get in revenue as quickly as possible, and then once you have gotten into revenue, have a relentless pursuit of financial stability so that you can grow your business through the profits of your business, and or you will have a much, much better story to tell those potential investors at your business. Stephanie, we got 12:58. I don't know if you have any more questions. If you do, I think we got time for one more.
I need to hire a salesperson. Any advice?
A couple of pieces of advice. My experience is that hiring salespeople can be one of the most challenging things that any small business does, especially if they don't have experience in sales. So, as we talked about before, it's really important to have a professional salesperson on your team, or at least a very experienced salesperson on your team, whether you're raising capital or not. My preference is that they be at the founder level because we want that founder's mentality, that founder's mindset to understand that they're the ones responsible for selling things for the company, because you as the CEO, if that salesperson is not a co-founder, they're not likely to have the right mindset and attitude and commitment to your success. As the CEO of your company, you can never abdicate the responsibility for sales. Why? Because those largest clients are going to want to talk to you. Those industry analysts, those partners are going to want to talk to you. You will have to participate in the sales process for the biggest and the most important deals at your company. You have to be a great salesperson, you as CEO. If you're the CEO of your company and you've never had any sales experience, you got to go out and get that sales training and get that sales experience, because you cannot abdicate the responsibility for sales. You can delegate it, you can share it, but you cannot abdicate it. So I guess the first piece of response to you is that you got to do one of those two things if you need a salesperson on your team. You have to be that salesperson yourself and become that salesperson yourself. And by the way, we can help. We have sales training programs available here at Hoyt Management Group that may be of a tremendous amount of benefit to you. Or you need to hire a co-founder to be a salesperson. It's really, really challenging for you to be the CEO and to hire a salesperson and to make them responsible for making quota, to make them responsible for the life of your business through sales of your business, and not having them have a co-founder's responsibility. That's incredibly hard. By the way, it's really hard to hire salespeople if you yourself, it's hard to hire them even if you've been a professional salespeople for a long time. But it's really hard to hire good salespeople if you don't know what they look like, and you don't know what they act like, you don't know how to train them, and you don't know how to mentor and manage them. The rule of thumb used to be that 80% of all salespeople hired didn't work out after the first 90 days. And the reason is because it's really hard to hire salespeople. So that's why I really advise you to get a co-founder as your salesperson before you reach out. And as always, with any hiring decision, with any decision that you have at your company, if you don't have the expertise to make a great decision, then get yourself a coach. Get an experienced mentor advisor on your team, somebody like us who can help you figure out how to make those great decisions and help you interview the people who you might hire to do those, to help you figure out how you're going to manage them, how you're going to mentor them, how you're going to choose them on your team. So to make sure that you get the very best chance of success when you hire that salesperson for your team or anybody else at your team. I want to thank you all for attending our office hours presentations for today. I want to remind you of the greatness, the happiness, the divinity that you have within yourself, and what a magnificent person that you really are when you are anywhere close to being at your best. We'd love to support you in your business growth, in your professional growth, in your personal growth, however we can. And until we meet again, this is Paul Hoyt, wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.